Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you all to this resume and cover letter workshop. My name is James Thomas. My pronouns are he, they, and I serve as the interim director of the Department of Student Diversity and Multicultural Affairs, or SDMA. As you all know, it is time for interviews. There are time for internships, job fairs, and also a lot of job postings now for student leader positions for the upcoming year, which we are hiring within our office. So just want to let you all know that's why we came together and thought it would be great to partner with our friends over in the business career services to provide this opportunity with you all. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be recording this session, and you'll be able to submit questions during this time. Questions won't be answered in real time, but we'll be taking note of them, and at the end, we'll be addressing trends and questions that people ask throughout the session. So in the chat here, you will see I'm going to just drop a little personal plug for our SDMA leader positions, in which you can find them on Handshake to submit your resume. And then there's an application that you will complete on Microsoft Teams with us. So I'm not going to delay it any further. I'm going to turn it over to Lynée Alves with the Business Career Services. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'm so excited that we had so many people sign up. I see people joining right now. We're up to 33 joined. I think when I left the office today to get on the train home, we had 50 signed up, and I am absolutely blown away by how many people are actually attending. We're already up to 38 in the room. So I'm going to give it just a couple of extra minutes while you guys all join. I mean, literally just a couple. And then I'm going to dig right into today's content as people join. I want to make sure that people don't miss some of this very important information. And again, I congratulate every student on here who is joining tonight, because this is going to be a great session. I promise you, you are going to come away with information that you can use and apply as you prepare to search for a job or to search for an internship. As James said, the SDMA office has lots of opportunities that are being posted this semester. So for those of you who, which is probably most of you, live up near the Lakeshore campus, what a great opportunity to work with them. And I am so grateful to James and to the entire SDMA team for partnering with me. And I'm so excited to be working in tandem with James and with everybody at SDMA. So just a quick point of clarification for all of those who are joining. You know, while we are presenting this in partnership, the Business Career Services Center plus SDMA, everybody's welcome. We want to make sure that everybody at Loyola has access to great information. I work as a career coach with students every single day, and the number one thing we work on is resumes. So tonight's going to be a really worthwhile session for you, and I'm looking forward to that. So we have 51 people on. I'm blown away. This is great. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. As James said, for those of you who just joined in the last couple minutes while I was just kind of warming up and kind of sharing what we're going to go over, I want you to know that he's got a chat going. There's a link to the SDMA opportunities. If you're looking for an on-campus opportunity, I invite you to check out those jobs, copy that link, save that link. But in addition, if you have questions during tonight's session, I want you to pop them into the chat. James is going to be watching those questions and kind of collecting the ones that are pretty common across multiple students. And I also am leaving time at the end of tonight for open Q&A as well. But we're going to try and focus mostly on resumes and cover letters. If we exhaust all those questions, I will be happy to take any others you have. So 56 people. I feel like this is like some exciting thing I'm watching. So I'm thrilled to have you all here. And without further ado, we're going to dig in. Okay, so welcome everybody to tonight's session. It's a resume and cover letter workshop. I thought this would be a great way to kick off the semester for all of you. My name is Lynée Alves, and I am an undergraduate career coach, and I work with the undergraduate students in the Quinlan School of Business. But I'm happy to be here with all of you today, regardless of which college you're in. So business career services and career services for all of Loyola University. Chicago is here to support you in your career, whether that's near term, just getting an on-campus job, whether that's long term, getting an internship or getting a full-time job upon graduation. So I want to tell you a little bit about me so that you can kind of get a feel for my background and where I think I can offer all of you an awful lot of value. I joined Loyola University last September, and I'm so excited to be here. I hadn't even considered that I could get a job working in higher education. Like I said, I work with the undergrads in the Quinlan School of Business, but prior to joining Loyola, I had a 29-year career in advertising sales. I worked in sales directly for about 9 or 10 years and then moved up into manager and director level roles. I worked at companies like the Chicago Tribune, was my first job out of college, got it at an on-campus career fair, by the way, plug for our career fairs. So I got a job there and worked my way into management roles there. Then I worked at apartments.com. I worked at livingsocial.com. And my last media job, I've had a few others in between too, but my last media sales role was as the director of local ad sales for Comcast, for cable advertising sales in Chicago. So the reason I tell you all of this, the reason I share this with all of you is because I have had a very long and successful corporate career. I managed my career. I always wrote my resume. I was really good at navigating job opportunities and getting that next job, whether it was an internal job or an external job. But I kind of got burned out on my career, is the truth. And after 29 years in media sales, I was ready to be done with media sales. And I figured out that I had all of the skills to start my own career coaching business, which I started in 2017. And for the last 3.5 or so years prior to joining Loyola, I was an independent career coach, and I was working with professionals at all levels, primarily people working in corporate who were looking to improve their professional branding, right? Improve their resume, their LinkedIn profiles, improve their interview skills. What I want to share with all of you students tonight is that adults my age have a lot of the same fears that you have about the whole job search process and interview process. So that's what's really interesting. It doesn't matter how old you are. Everybody has the same fears and concerns, and everybody needs help in a lot of the same areas. So you guys are really lucky to have the resources that you have here at Loyola. With me, if you're a Quinlan student, you have the ability to book with me. But if you're not, don't worry. You've got a whole career services group at the College of Arts and Sciences that you have access to as well. And they can help you with all of these very same things. And finally, I think I'll just mention that I have 2 college-age kids, one of whom just graduated last month, and he got a great job using one of my resumes. So I think, I hope that that gives you a little bit of confidence that I know what I'm talking about and I know my stuff, and I'm here to share everything I know with you tonight. So let's talk about what you need to know about your resume. Primarily, your resume, what I want to impart upon all of you is the foundational tool in any job search. Okay, this is really what everything else builds off of. And I know that sounds a little extreme, but let's think about that for a moment. Your LinkedIn profile is something that you build off of your resume. Your interview skills benefit from your resume. If your resume is well written, it's going to include your top accomplishments and results that you will want to address and discuss during an interview opportunity. So all of these things are interrelated, but the resume is really the foundation. You could have a great resume and that can get you in the door, but if you then don't have those other skills, then you might fall short. So tonight we're going to talk about the resume. It's your professional branding tool. This is a term you may start hearing in the corporate world, in the workplace. You see a bit of it here and there, but this is what we're talking about tonight, professional branding, and specifically your resume and your cover letter. Your resume is promoting the brand. So we're talking about professional branding, the brand called you. You are a product effectively when you're searching for a job. You are in sales when you're searching for a job. I spent my entire career in sales, and I think that's what makes me a really great resume writer as well. I know how to spin things positively. I've worked with students who, have felt like their experience, their work experience wasn't worthy of putting on their resume, like maybe a job at Taco Bell. I can make a job at Taco Bell sound elevated and professional. All of you can. So I want you to know that sometimes you're putting too much pressure on yourself about what you can include. It's about how you present the information that makes all the difference in the world. So let's talk about preparing for your internship or job search. What do you need to market yourself effectively for those internship or job opportunities? Well, really the three things that are critically important are a strong resume. Like I said, that's your foundation. A professional, well-done LinkedIn profile, which, like I said earlier, is going to build off of your resume, and the ability to navigate and perform well during interviews. Now, we're not going to cover LinkedIn or interviewing tonight, but certainly for everybody who's on, if you have session, like if you would like a session on either one of these, please pop that in the chat. I'd love to know. We'll be watching that. James is watching that now. So if you think, gosh, yeah, I'd like to do that either now or later, maybe you want to wait to see what my information is and how good or bad it is before you vote. But if these are things that you also need, these are sessions that we can put on as well. Okay, so let's get to the meat of why we're here, your resume and what you need to know. So tonight I want to give you kind of a really great overview of what you need to know about what goes into an exceptional resume. And an exceptional resume can be at any level, at a college student level, at a young professional level, at an experienced professional level. It's all different degrees. But trust me, even being a college student and having work experience in high school and college can be elevated and can be presented in a very compelling manner. So let's first talk about the key sections and features of the resume. You want to have a profile statement. And when I work with students, some of them have it, some of them don't. This is a really great piece of the resume. It's kind of an attention grabber. It's a very short and well written, like it's written really kind of punchy, like short and well written piece that talks about who are you, what do you, what's your brand, basically. Right underneath that profile statement, then you should be highlighting some of your core skills and competencies. So these can be hard skills, these can be soft skills. I'm going to give you examples of all of these things as we go through tonight's presentation, just to give you a feel for all of it. Then on a resume for a college student, here's something that's a little different than when you're a professional. Your education information comes next. So you've got profile statement, skills, education. So education is moving up near the top of your resume. It's kind of like the top 1/3 of your resume, instead of being at the bottom. You'll move your education information to the bottom of your resume once you start your professional career. So let's say you go get a job out of college, and now you're a year or two out and you're like, I'm going to go get another job. That's when you would rework that resume to move education to the bottom and keep everything else the same, okay? After education information on your college resume, you're going to include all of your work experience. And then you can add a section or multiple sections, depending on how much you have and how much room you have, for volunteer, leadership, or extracurricular activities. The other thing I didn't note on here, but I want to note to all of you verbally, is that your resume as a college student is expected to be 1 page long and no longer. And this is sometimes a challenge. I worked with a student yesterday who had a lot of information on her resume, and we really had to edit it all down to a page. And we were able to do it because less is more. You're going to hear that a couple times from me throughout tonight's presentation. Sometimes we think that putting all this information in writing on a piece of paper is going to sell people on us just on paper. But the fact is that people, all of you, me, we're all victim to it. I think most of us anyway, victim to it these days. Our attention spans are shorter. Why? because of these devices that I hope you're not looking at while I'm presenting. We have short attention spans. We're looking for information quickly. We're moving on to the next fast. And you know what? People who read resumes, whether it's an HR person or a hiring manager, also do the same thing. So less is more. So one page is the format for your resume. So let's go through each of these items one by one. I want you to get a feel for what they look like and sound like. So here's a sample profile statement for an accounting major. Disciplined and focused accounting major, passionate about financial analysis and reporting and committed to delivering exceptional results. Skilled at managing deadlines and collaborating with team members, driven and motivated to succeed. This type of a profile statement will really read very well for an accounting major, for any major. So any major that you are, you can take this sample and you can make it your own. And just so you all know, I'll take just a pause here and mention, I have templates for you that include samples, that include a sample. But if you want to take pictures of these as well, just to get ideas, I'm also going to point you to some other resources. But here's another example of a profile statement for a different major, for a marketing major. Highly motivated and resourceful marketing major. Passionate about the business of retail and committed to delivering exceptional results. Experienced in customer service, merchandising, and retail sales. Skilled at building strong relationships and collaborating effectively with team members. Determined, driven to perform, and motivated to succeed. You might recognize that last line because it is part of the template that I've given all of you, and that can sound really good. If it doesn't feel or sound authentic to you, this is where you work with your career coach. And you kind of go back and forth and find something that does sound authentic for you. But these are some great examples, two very different majors. I hope what you can see here is that these are very short sentences, very clear sentences that define the person. Here, we're defining ourselves out of the gate as a marketing major because this person is looking for marketing and retail related jobs. For an accounting major, like here, we're defining as an accounting major. Now, that can help most people. Sometimes it may not help you in your job search. So if you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, it could be a little bit different. You might just say disciplined and focused senior at Loyola University, right? Or something like that, or junior, whatever. You might use your school year. You might use your major, again, if it's related to what you're looking for. If it's not, you might not. And again, this is where career coaches can really help you to understand what you highlight and what you might not highlight on a resume, depending on what your search strategy is. We're not going to talk about that today either, but having a defined job search strategy is also really important and beneficial, because then you can write a profile statement like this that will actually help you get in the door and help you really kind of get the attention of the people who are in the decision-making roles for hiring. So next on your resume is the core skills and competencies section. So I've got a couple of examples here for you. This is one for a finance student: financial reporting, data analysis, communication skills, time management, problem solving, Microsoft Excel and Access. So what you're seeing here is what would come right underneath that profile statement. You can see it's also very simple. And one of the things that's important with this is to make sure that if you put a core skill or competency down here, you want to make sure that you actually have it. So data analysis, you may not have done it professionally, but as a finance student, you're doing a lot of data analysis in your classes. You're doing, working on financial reports. So these are things that you can declare, I have comfort with and experience with. But don't get too crazy with what you claim. Sometimes I've had to pull students back a little bit and kind of refine what they're like. For example, it might be like, I think I had somebody recently who had something about, management. And I thought, it can be a little bit much for a graduating senior to be positioning as, a manager and a leader. So we have to be careful about that. We want to be very authentic about what we're presenting and have it make sense to the audience that we're presenting it to. So here's an example, like I said, for a finance student. Now here's another example from a student I worked with who is looking for operations roles in business. So she, I think, was studying supply chain, if I'm not mistaken. So in supply chain, it's a lot of process improvement, data analysis again, leadership skills. She was applying for roles that would require her to be like a team leader, detail-oriented, strong communicator, relationship builder, time management, adaptable and flexible. That's a really important quality in today's workplace, and Microsoft Office suite. So again, this one went for 3 lines. The other one went for 2, no more than 3 for sure. But these are a couple of really great examples, and you can see how nice this looks on the page. So next we move to the education information. And so here's an example of what it looks like. And this is pulled right from the template that I'm going to point you to later in tonight's presentation. So we put everything as you see here. You can see the layout is very easy to navigate, easy to read. So you literally, when you get this template, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, you're going to just highlight and type over the content here, get rid of the highlighting for anything that you're customizing, and move on. The formatting is all done for you, so you don't have to figure that out. And we can actually talk a little bit about the formatting. I'm going to make a note about that for the end, because I do want to talk about that. I know many of you have probably found layouts, some of you perhaps on Canva, which I would not recommend. Anything that's too graphic heavy is not very compatible with the applicant tracking systems that house all the resumes. So when you apply to a role online, it's going into a software that is an applicant tracking system of some sort, where they're housing all these resumes. And in many cases, that software is reading the resume and parsing data. So the easier your resume is to read and the simpler the layout, while looking very attractive, it needs to be functional so that computer software can read it. And it also needs to be functional and appealing to a human being. So you're going to see in the template that that I've got for you that all of those boxes are ticked, and that every template, both templates I have for you, are in a really nice, easy to read font. The font that I'm using here is Calibri. So these are all important things in your resume. There's many little details that go into building a great document. So next, after your education, you'll be including your work experience. And I just want to say a few words about what you need to think about, what you want to think about related to your work experience. One of the things that I see, and again, this is not unique to college students, this is across the board. Some people are basically writing up, like, what were my responsibilities and duties? And it's not enough just to say, here's what my responsibilities or duties were or are. It's important to, whenever possible, include or highlight results or accomplishments. And these, don't always have to be metrics and numbers. They can be supporting a business initiative, supporting increased sales, things like that. Like if you work in retail, you would say something like, consistently delivered excellent customer service in order to support increased sales and revenues, if you worked at a retail store. So the benefit is I'm delivering great customer service in order to help this store generate more revenue. And so what that tells an employer is that you understand that your role is contributing to their larger goals. These are subtle things, but I can tell you that you will set yourself apart from the pack if your resume is written in the right way. So again, don't just say what you did, include results and accomplishments, and we're going to take a look at those in just a moment. You want to provide a little detail, but not too much. I mentioned the fact that I worked with a student yesterday who had a longer resume. Part of it was that her layout was was utilizing too much room. So we put her resume into the new layout. But in addition, she was just adding too much detail about everything that she had done, where sometimes it wasn't a detail that was going to benefit her. It wasn't going to make her stand out. So when we're saying things to fill space, and again, that wasn't her goal, of course, but when we are, saying more than we need to, I should say, sometimes the stuff that's really important gets lost. So my job when I'm working with students, and I know the job of the career coaches and the College of Arts and Sciences, our job is to help you highlight those things that are going to help you succeed in your job search. Ultimately, it's all about, on paper, communicating the value that you offer to an organization, whether that be James and the group at SDMA, right? If you want an on-campus role, how is your experience going to help them? I imagine they would have roles that would require a lot of student interaction, or would have the opportunity for a lot of student interaction. And then you would want to talk about delivering great customer service and, helping people, and whatever the case may be based on your individual experience. But you're always wanting to focus on communicating your value. So let's take a look at this work experience. Full disclosure, the template that I built for you guys is based on my own son's resume. He graduated last month. He got a great job with US Bank. And this is what his experience looked like. So for those of you who think that you've got to have complicated, extensive experience and write it up in a complex way, you don't. Look at how simple the language is here, but you really get a lot of good information. So my son worked at the same company over a few summers during school. And this is the same company, and what he and I decided to do was separate his role out, kind of entitle it a little bit differently for each summer. Where, what was he focusing on in his first summer? What was he focusing on in his second summer? So you can see there's just enough detail, but not too much. Met with the owner weekly to review and discuss business financials. Opened shop and managed business operations on a daily basis. Answered product questions, provided quotes, and addressed customer service issues via phone and email. Developed and introduced updated pricing programs to support increased revenue and profit, right? So there's a great example, right? There's a benefit. He addressed customer service issues. He managed business operations daily. This is quite high level in its description. And then what happens is in the interview, you can talk a little bit more and provide a little bit more detail about these specific items. And then when he was an e-commerce intern, he was able to say, hey, I personally sold over $100,000 in merchandise, because he was working the phones and helping people with orders all the time. He answered inbound calls, provided customers with product information and quotes, right? So some people might have on their resume, when I see it, answered, customer calls, right? Or answered, phone calls from, customers and prospects. But here we've got, provided them with product information and quotes. So again, it's really just a way to position that, like, I'm doing something that's helping drive this business forward, or helping to, make this business or organization successful. So these are some great examples, but this is his exact information from his resume. And then the last section will be, again, ideally it's one section, because remember, we're limited to one page. So sometimes we'll group these under one thing, or sometimes you could say, combine them. Like maybe you would say extracurricular activities, and that would cover volunteer leadership, anything. Right? That's probably a good way to go. Sometimes people feel like they only have had leadership roles, and so they want to highlight that. Sometimes people have only had volunteer, and they want to highlight it that way. So it's up to you how you do it. The best catch-all is probably extracurricular. And then if it's a volunteer role, you can define that below, like you see here. So of course, at the Quinlan School and here at Loyola, we've got the Rambler Investment Fund. And you can see that in this case, on the sample that I created for you, I've added just a quick one-line summary of what is this. Because what we also don't want to do with our resumes is assume that people know what that even is. Even though it says Rambler Investment Fund, if I'm an outsider, I might not know what that is. So sometimes it's appropriate to explain something, but you have to, again, keep it very high level. So we first talk about what is it, and then we talk about what did he do, or what did this person do? They collaborated with 4 committee members and 30 analysts on investment goals, strategies, and decisions. Great, super simple. So now as an interviewer or a hiring manager, I'm going to understand what this group is, what they were doing there. And if you have social, organizations, you can put that here too. Something I forgot to mention at the top of the call when I was talking about my qualifications is I also was a hiring manager in corporate America for 20 years. So once I moved into management roles, I was consistently recruiting for top talent, interviewing and hiring. I even did some college recruiting back in my day. So this is all very familiar territory for me. So let's talk a little bit about a resume tip I wanted to share with all of you about how to write targeted content. At the top of this meeting, I talked about the fact that it's important to define yourself, right? Define who you are, what you bring to the table. One way to help help yourself to write a good resume, once you decide, hey, if I'm a marketing major, if I'm an English major, I don't know, I've decided I want to go into sales. Let's just use that. I'd like you then to pull 2 to 3 job postings for entry-level sales jobs or sales internships, depending on what you're looking for. I want those to be ones that sound interesting to you and that you're qualified for. And by that, I mean that you meet most or all of the job requirements or desired skills that they outline. These might include knowing how to work a specific software program like Salesforce, or it might include having, some customer service experience in prior roles, right? So when I hired for sales previously, people who had worked in the hospitality industry are great people for sales because they're engaging with people all day. So people who are waiting tables at restaurants, hostesses at restaurants, and food service establishments, people in the hotel industry, things like that. So anyway, I want you to identify these roles and make sure, okay, these 2 or 3 are definitely in my wheelhouse. And if you're not sure, talk to a career coach, because sometimes I know students aren't quite sure, hey, does this seem to be a good fit? So review the postings, and what you're looking for are common skills that are requested across all, let's say, 3 postings. So maybe all of them are asking for strong communication skills, and all of them are asking for problem-solving skills. And then there might also be some common keywords or key phrases used to describe, what they're looking for, like, ambitious or goal-driven or things like that. So now you're going to be kind of going, okay, so this type of role seems to kind of have these types of skills that are desired. Which of those do I have? I want to make sure and highlight them on my resume. Right? So those are ones that you might want to include in that keyword list, the core skills and competencies, or you might be able to work some of them into your professional or your profile statement. I don't recommend that you duplicate. So if you're talking about, say, teamwork in your profile statement, don't also put teamwork in that skills list. We're using those 2 areas in combination to really provide a lot of information easily and quickly. So try not to duplicate there. But when you do this, it will allow you to present yourself as a candidate who is really aligned with the roles that you're applying for. And that is going to spell success. I'm going to tell you a story. Let me see what my next slide is actually here. Let me finish this up, and then I'm going to tell you a quick story about my experience coming to Loyola. So another resume tip I don't want to forget to tell you is about naming your document. And I've been coaching the students I work with on this a lot. I want you to save your resume with this naming convention. Jane Smith resume, February 2022. Why do I want you to do this? Well, it looks professional. It has your name attached, which is going to help people, recruiters or hiring managers, if you email a document to somebody directly, it should be very clear what that document is. And then I want you to create a dedicated folder on your computer for resumes, because you are going to, over the course of your career life, work life, you're going to update your resume regularly. It's just going to happen, because let's say you get a job and then you get another job. You've got to add that to your resume. You're going to have to take your college resume and update it once you get your professional role. Every time you update your resume, I want you to copy the document. Don't start editing it. I want you to copy the most recent one. So let's say you've got one from February 22, and let's fast forward and pretend we're in May now, and you've got to update your resume. You're going to copy the February version, create a new document, do your edits, and then save as Jane Smith resume, May 2022. And then every time you go into that folder, you're always going to know what's the most recent resume that I edited. A young woman I met with today said, I just had, and she's like, that's such a good idea. Because I went in one day and I realized I was editing an old version, but it took me a while to figure it out. So this is a very easy way for you to figure this out with a minimum of hassle. Okay, so we're going to talk about cover letters, but first let me talk about my story with Loyola. So when we talk about, I'm going to go back to this writing targeted content slide. I was able to get this job at Loyola. I wasn't even looking for a job when I came across this posting, but when I looked at it, it kind of fell into the bucket of this first bullet point where it came across my computer. I read it and I thought, wow, I actually meet all of the requirements for this role. And this is crazy. I never thought I would work in higher ed. I did some editing to my resume and sent it in. I applied, the end of the story is I applied to one job in a field that I had never worked in before, which was higher ed, and I got it. That's how powerful a really good resume can be. Now, I did some other things that helped me navigate my way in, by the way. I didn't just send my resume in and hope for the best. There are other things that you can do to call attention to yourself as a candidate, and I did those things. But the point is that I don't know that I'd ever had quite that experience. However, I've had very consistent, good experience in applying for roles that I'm well qualified for and being able to demonstrate that on paper and back it up when I go into the interview. So it's that powerful. You could literally be having the same experience that I had, where you apply to a role and get a job. If your resume is in great shape. I've worked with students who've said, I've applied to hundreds of opportunities. I don't know if it's hundreds or not, but I'm sure to them it feels like it. I've not gotten a bite. In some cases, the resumes have been all wrong and they just didn't know it. They had gotten incorrect advice, incorrect information. We reworked it. I had a young man say to me last semester, as soon as I started using that new resume, I got 3 interviews and I got a job offer. So it's that powerful. So if you think resume writing is something that you're just going to kind of bang out real quickly, it's not going to take you forever. I'm going to make it easy for you, but I'm telling you, it's worth whatever time you put in, and it's worth working with a career coach to get it right so that you're well set for the roles that you want to pursue. So now let's pop into cover letters for a moment and talk a little bit about them. So what you need to know about cover letters. If a cover letter is noted as optional on a job application, I always recommend that you submit one. Why? Well, it sets you apart, again, from other candidates. I mean, anybody who does something that's optional, something they don't have to do, that might just be something that, companies are thinking is one way to weed people out. I mean, I can't claim to know that. I didn't ever do that as a hiring manager, but it absolutely could be. I mean, some people care about it. Some people ask for them. They don't even really read them. They skim them. They don't really do a lot with them. But the point is, you need to be prepared to be able to submit a high quality cover letter in addition to your resume when it's asked for or when it's optional. And just like with the resume, less is more. So sometimes I see, again, from people of all ages, whether college students all the way up to experienced professionals, people putting a lot of text, a lot of content into a cover letter. And when I read that cover letter, it's clear to me that they're trying to kind of tell this person everything about them on paper. But the person doesn't want to know everything about you on paper. They want to know the highlights on paper And if they're intrigued by those highlights, then they would like to call you in to get to know you better and learn more about you and your experience and you as a person, and if you might be a fit for their organization. The other thing that you want to do in your cover letters, the writing style that you want to use is one that includes a lot of positivity and enthusiasm about the opportunity. So for example, here's some sample cover letter content. Couldn't be more enthusiastic than using the word enthusiastic in the first sentence. You know, I'd like to express my enthusiastic interest in the XYZ internship or the social media specialist role, whatever, at whatever company or organization. And then you go into some of the same skills and competencies and strengths that you highlighted on your resume, right? You customize this to fit you. You know, I am a, driven self-starter, and I have gained sales experience at blah, blah, blah company or during my time in college. I'm eager to explore opportunities to build upon my skills and experience in sales at a leading organization. So again, I've got a lot of this plug and play for you, so you'll be able to use this. Here's the rest of the letter. I want you to see that this is the extent of the letter. That's the only reason I'm showing it to you. I don't want to bore you, but you're going to say, I'm passionate about this, or again, you can put this in your own words, and I'm confident that my experience will allow me to quickly perform or learn and perform at a high level. I look forward to joining a team and making an immediate and positive impact on your organization. You hear how powerful that language is. That's really important in resume and cover letter writing. And then the summary paragraph is, I'm confident that I'm an excellent candidate. I would welcome the opportunity to schedule a phone call or meeting to discuss my qualifications and provide additional details about the value I can bring to X as a whatever title, either next summer or upon graduation from Loyola University, Chicago. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, your name. That's it. It's that short. And this is the model I used when I was applying at Loyola. So I practice what I preach always. And the things that I do have consistently worked for me. I've taught them to hundreds of others that consistently worked for them. So I'm bringing it all to you here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the resources and where you can find some of this information. The templates that I've been talking about today are available on the Quinlan website for download. I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a moment. So I've got a resume template there for you and a cover letter template. These are both in Microsoft Word, and they're pre-formatted. So you literally just, like I said earlier, highlight over the text and start typing. And be sure that when you copy those templates that are going to be downloaded in Word, that you keep them in Word. If you are a student here at Loyola, don't use Google Docs for this. And if you haven't loaded Word or Microsoft products onto your computer yet, know that through Loyola, you get all of that for free. So if you don't have Microsoft products on your computer, make sure you go online and check with, I think it's IT resources. You can get all of that stuff downloaded. So you want to keep this in Word so that you can keep that formatting unified and not have to mess with it yourself. I'm making it as easy for you as I possibly can. And then we've also got toolkits. I'm going to show you what those look like as well in just a moment. I'll show you a screenshot, but this, if you want to take a picture, is the link that you can go to. Oh my gosh, I don't know why my mouse is doing that, sorry. This is the link that you can use to get straight to these toolkits where we've got the templates. But let me show you what it visually looks like, because some of you may find that helpful. So if you go on the Quinlan site, you're just going to navigate over to Student Life, which isn't super intuitive. So go to Student Life, and then in the drop down, and I would do this on a computer, right? You're going to download this on a computer. I wouldn't recommend doing this on a mobile device. You're going to click Business Career Services. And then I want you to start, and I'm going to show you a screenshot in a moment of this, start exploring what is the student resources area. This includes career toolkits. Now these are specific to every BBA major in Quinlan, okay? So I understand that everybody on this call is not a Quinlan student, that's fine. These are, but they're resources that you can have a look at. They give an example of, and resume examples for every single major in our in our school, and it just allows you to see how you can write a different profile statement or highlight different skills depending on your major and the type of role that you're going for. And for those of you who are in the College of Arts and Sciences, I want you to know you can apply that the same way on your end. And then you're going to find the templates there again, and all you do is click and they download immediately. So here's what it looks like. You go to Business Career Services, you navigate to, there's a link that says Student Resources. From there, you're going to click this link right here, Career Toolkits and Sample Resumes. Now you can see that there are other resources here as well that might help you out. I'm trying to think, like just even career coaching where you can set up appointments and things. That's another place where you can navigate to meet with us. Once you, actually, hang on. Once you get to this area, you click here, there's one more click you've got to open up. You're going to see kind of a closed menu of general resources, undergrad toolkits for undergrads, toolkits, and more tools. But it's undergrad that you want to open up, and you're going to find at the top of the list the resume template as a Word doc and the cover letter template as a Word doc. I want you to download those. I want you to make a copy of them. They do have headers on them that say Business Career Services. You can just go into the menu in Word and say, click the insert menu and then navigate over to header and then just say remove header. And if you need help with that, you can certainly reach out. And then you can see if you are a Quinlan student, here are all of the different toolkits. So if you're a marketing student, you can look at the marketing toolkit to see, how's this written? Does this give me any ideas for how I might want to write mine, etc. Okay, and I don't advise that you just copy things verbatim. I do advise that you try on your own to draft this. And and once you're done, I really advise you to work with a career coach, set up that appointment, and or get a resume review if they're, if appointments aren't available. We offer resume reviews. You can upload your resume if you're a Quinlan student into Handshake, and we will review it for you. Our student leaders have all been trained on resume reviews, and you'll get a review back within, I think it's maybe 48 to 72 hours. You'll get feedback, I should say. And then if the feedback includes meet with a career coach, they'll let you know that. But there are different resources, different ways you can get your resume reviewed. Okay, I really just would like to take a moment before we get into the Q&A, which is coming up in just a minute, just to make sure all of you are aware of all of the services you can get through our offices, whether it's the Quinlan Career Services Group or whether it's the College of Arts and Sciences. We can help you with resumes, cover letters, and other professional materials. Might be an application for something that you are looking to submit. We do discuss with students, even though, of course, you're talking to academic, your academic advisor about majors and minors. Sometimes we get involved in those conversations, or certainly in what could be potential career opportunities for you. Interview prep, we can help you with salary negotiation, job offer negotiation, networking, helping with job and internships searches on Handshake and other online platforms. And then for Quinlan students, we do have virtual career coaching drop-in hours. It's basically like our office hours twice a week, every week on Mondays from 11 to noon and Thursdays from 2 to 3. I'm sorry, I don't know which hours the College of Arts and Sciences offers, that group offers, but I can assure you that they have drop-in hours as well. And then just a quick overview, excuse me, of all of the upcoming fairs. We've already had a couple. We had our winter accounting internship fair last week. We have the healthcare career fair tomorrow. And then we've got upcoming fairs for Quinlan and other schools as well. So Quinlan coming up then next week again with the business career networking fair, the STEM fair coming up mid-month, diversity and inclusion fair on the 23rd, and then the School of Social Work networking and career fair at the end of March. And for all up-to-date details on all fairs, I've got the link there at the bottom of the slide. If things, hopefully we aren't going to be needing to change anything more to virtual, but it could happen. Or it could change from virtual to in-person. Just always go there to get the most up-to-date information. And for those of you who are part of Quinlan, like I said, I'm the career coach for undergrads. We are in Suite 115, right across from the great stairs there in Schreiber. invite you to come by and to see us, stop in. If you need help with anything, have any questions, of course, we're there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So that is everything I had for you for my presentation on resumes and on cover letters. But what I'd love to do now is take a look at the chat and Q&A. Or James, if you want to start me off, that's great too. Either way, but I'm taking a look at chat and then I see Q&A as well. So let me start with the 2 questions I see in Q&A. And if you have more, guys, feel free to load them in. So right now I've got the first question in the Q&A tab says, what is the difference between a resume and a CV? Excellent question. CV stands for curriculum vitae. That is typically used in Europe. And it's also used, I believe, in academia as well. So like if you're in education roles, they might ask you for a curriculum vitae. It's a different and lengthier document than a traditional resume. So there are specific roles where you might be asked to provide a CV versus a resume. But for most jobs, like I've never had a CV, right? I've always had a resume. So if you're looking to work in kind of, I guess what I would say is traditional business in the US, a resume will be just fine. But if you are going to be pursuing, higher level academic careers, a CV may come into play later in your career, and you can do some more research on that online, but that's a quick and easy answer for you on that. Let's see. Okay, next, what kind of extracurriculars should we avoid putting on the list? That's an interesting question. I haven't had that asked of me yet. I don't know that there's anything I would say off the top of my head. I think if I was working with you individually as a student, we would work through that together. Sometimes I'll say, like this young woman I worked with yesterday had a lot of extracurriculars. We did lop a few off because they weren't all equally important. So what I would say to you is think about those extracurriculars. If you don't have a lot, then there's probably not a reason to cut. But if, I can't imagine, I guess, off the top of my head, what would not be appropriate. I mean, if you're in a fraternity or sorority, it's a social organization, but that's okay. And I think that it could be, obviously student organizations, but if you want to add to that, let me know. But I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I can tell you that when I've worked one-on-one with students on their resumes, these are things that we'll work through together where I'll be like, I don't know that this adds a lot, but these are really good. So let's leave these 2 and take this 3rd one off. But again, that's very specific to the individual and what they're looking to do. What's the link for Quinlan resume review? Ooh, these are coming in fast and furious. Hang on a second, let me get back here. What is the link for Quinlan resume reviews? That is actually in that, hang on, I'm gonna actually take you back here. I'm gonna show you exactly where it is. It's on the Quinlan website right here. You see under the career, the first tab that says career coaching. Oop, geez Louise, I keep doing that. The first tab that's first link, I should say, that's career coaching, click that, and then you will scroll down on that page and you will find the instructions that tell you how to submit your resume. The bottom line is that you will upload it to Handshake. You will need to make your resume visible. There's a little radio button that you click. Once you do that, we have our student leaders checking every day to look at resumes that have been submitted. And then once you get in that queue, like I said, you can expect a 48 to 72 hour turnaround. I have trained all of the student leaders who handle our resume reviews for Quinlan. So hopefully that helps you, Raphael. How essential is volunteering on a resume and why? It isn't necessarily, it isn't essential. It's just one of the options that you can include. So volunteering can be considered an extracurricular activity. And some people have volunteer experience, other people don't. I would say that, I know, my experience, I know I'm a lot older than all of you guys, but I didn't have a lot of volunteer experience. I had in my day just part-time jobs that I had as a high schooler and as a college student. I didn't even have time for a lot of volunteering. So it's not required. It's an optional thing, but if you have it, sometimes it's a nice thing to add. Again, sometimes there are students who unlike the examples I've kind of talked about a lot today, there are some students who have too much content, but then there are some who don't have enough. So sometimes we need to build a resume up. And that's when I might ask somebody, hey, do you have any other work experience you had, any volunteer experience you had? So sometimes we're adding it when we want to kind of flesh out that resume, build it out, and have it fill the page, fill that single page, because everybody isn't, in a position where they've got so much that it's going over. And I've seen plenty of students in the opposite situation where they have maybe just a little too, it's a little short, and we need to perhaps expand those bullet points and grow it a little to help them look really good when they're sending their resume in for jobs. Okay, is it helpful to add a section of relevant courses and projects in my resume? Great question. Sometimes, yes. Again, that could be something where if you don't have a lot of work experience and enough to fill your resume, sometimes we might add a line like in that education section at the bottom. I don't tend to use that. I mean, I use it rarely, primarily because work experience is really what an employer is interested in when you are applying for a job. So they're looking at that most. And so if you're a finance student, no offense, but they kind of know you're taking classes and that relate to finance, and you're taking accounting classes. So they're not as interested generally in the workplace, in what classes you've taken. However, you can put that on there, and I have done that with some students. Again, it'll just depend on what you're applying for and what you're looking to do. And if you think it's going to strengthen your resume for that, or if you do need a little bit of additional content to fill out your resume. Can I please do a LinkedIn session? I would love to do a LinkedIn session. I know that one of our professors of marketing actually did a LinkedIn session. I think it was in October during Career Week for Quinlan, and I did email that out to all students. So if you were here last semester, and if you haven't deleted all the emails you haven't read, I did email something out about this LinkedIn session and gave you guys a Zoom link to that, but I would be super happy to do one. I love LinkedIn and I'm really passionate about it, and that's a whole other session we could do. So I will make a note of that. I would absolutely love to do that. I love doing these sessions with you guys. Okay, next, is it worth providing information on previous jobs on your resume if you don't have a lot of work experience building toward your current career? Great question. I think what you're saying, if I'm mistaken, please correct me, is, gee, this isn't professional experience. I've had students come to me saying, I don't have professional experience. And I'm like, well, you're not supposed to, you're a student. I worked at Baskin-Robbins scooping ice cream when I was in high school. I worked at a local version of a Home Depot as a cashier and as a customer service person, when I was in high school and college. So, I mean, I guess it's, what do you define as professional? To me, that was work experience. I was working with managers in a retail store. I was accountable to make sure that, I did my job properly and did it well and served customers and solved problems. So it depends on what you look at. I have heard I have found that some students tend to undersell their regular work experience. Like I said earlier in today's meeting, I had a student who, and I've had multiple students who've, got jobs at Taco Bell. That's fine. We can make that sound good because that's a hard job. And I will tell you that an employer, again, having been a hiring manager myself, I know what kind of, and I was in sales, so I think I was a little oriented to this, but I knew that's a hard job. And if you can do that job and talk about that job effectively, and succeed in a job like that, you're going to have a good work ethic. You're going to be a good worker. So there's things that it tells me about you. My son, for example, he didn't have this on his resume at graduation, but he had it before there. He, in high school, drove our next door neighbor's daughter to school every morning during his senior year of high school. And I remembered him thinking it was weird to put it on his resume. And I was like, that to me says that you're super responsible. What high school senior is going to get up early enough to go drive a kid to school before he goes to school himself? So there's little things that for me as a hiring manager, I got out of stuff like that, and that may not be obvious to you. So So anyway, maybe your work experience, you don't think it's great, but maybe when you work with a career coach, they can kind of help you to identify the fact that, hey, this is all valid experience and we can merchandise this for you on your resume. Let's see. And it all doesn't have to be, related to what you're going to be doing next. So that's an important piece. Okay. How low of a GPA would you include on your resume? Great question. I wouldn't highlight your GPA if it's, again, it's going to depend. You may not even need to include it at all. So, it is not a requirement. Listen, there are some, I'm working in the Quinlan Business School, so I'm working with a lot of students where accounting or finance, a GPA is going to be an indicator also for the people who are hiring for them. They like to see it. But a marketing student doesn't need to put a GPA on. I mean, if you have a high GPA, of course, why not show that, right? Why not show if you're a 3.9? But if you have a lower GPA, you just delete that entirely, because most companies, most jobs are not having a GPA requirement. Some do want to see that information, but all don't. So it's not a requirement. And so if you have a concern, I say remove it, because my goal for you is that you feel like as confident as possible when you're sending that resume out. How do I highlight in the resume working full-time and studying full-time? Wow, good for you. That's a hard thing to do. I've done both for my undergrad and grad school. Sadly, it's also left me with little extracurricular. Don't worry about that. The least of your worries is extracurricular activities. That's an amazing achievement if you've been working full-time and going to school full-time. I have great admiration for anybody who can do that. I think you can put a line about that in your education section. You could, that just says something like, worked full-time while studying. I mean, I've come up with a better wording of it on the fly. It would be something like, like maintained full-time employment while attending school full-time for both undergraduate and graduate, education, or something like that. I might refine it a little bit, but that's just a quick idea of what I might say, because you're right, that is a really big deal. Or you could put it even in your profile statement if it doesn't make your resume too long. If you're a grad student, I don't know if you are, if you are in grad school now, I guess I'm assuming you are. So I just don't know if you have years of professional experience or if you went straight from undergrad to grad, that would matter too. But nonetheless, I think that's also something that you would want to bring up in an interview, right? If they ask you, tell me about yourself, that'd be something I would absolutely work into my tell me about yourself statement. So that would be a really powerful thing. It is a little harder to put on a resume document, but we absolutely can. I do think it might be a little more powerful. Well, it could be equally powerful to have it there plus talk about it. So now I'm moving over to the chat because we've got all the questions answered there. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Learning about navigating interviews would be great. I asked that at the beginning if you guys would like a LinkedIn session or anything about interviews. Both. Oh, yeah, some more people saying yes. Okay, somebody said they had a class at 7, wants to see the recording later. Good news. We're going to have that and we'll figure that out. James and I will figure out. LinkedIn session. Yes, a lot of people saying that they would. Great. And James said we will be sharing a recording. Thank you, James, of our sessions with all participants. So see, good thing you guys signed up. And then let's see. Okay, great. Well, that is all the questions that I have. Did we do this? 7:31, you guys. That's crazy. And so many of you stayed on here to the end. I see 35 of you. Students, I know you guys have long days. I had a long day too. I was downtown all day and then came home to do this, but I love teaching you all about this stuff. I love what I do. For those of you who I get to meet with at Quinlan, I'm looking forward to seeing you. For those who I don't get to meet with all the time, if you're at Quinlan, please pop in and say hello to me. And you can always reach me. My email address is my first initial and last name. So it's alves@luc.edu. You can find me by searching on the Loyola or Quinlan website and find my information. But I want to thank all of you for joining today. I want to thank James. I want to thank SDMA. I want to thank all of you for signing up and taking an hour out of your evening. I know it's not easy. And with that, I will thank you all. And James, if you have any closing comments, I welcome them from you. And I thank you for all your support this evening.
No, we just like to close out by giving you another thank you for hosting such an amazing session. I know I took a lot of notes on this end that I hadn't even heard myself, and I've been in the game for a while, not telling my age. So I want to thank you again so much. And students, I want to encourage you all to please utilize these resources that you have here on campus. I'm just telling you on the other side, these resources cost a lot of money to get when you're no longer in college. So please, please, please utilize them while you're here. But thank you again so much, Lynée, and that closes our evening.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, James. Have a great night, everybody. And I'll talk to you later.